I always try to use my medium. And if I get into a normal sitcom writing contest with normal sitcom writers, I'm gonna lose. Dan Harmon.
You're listening to Writing Roots, brought to you by Aspen House Publishing.
Welcome to Writing Roots. I'm Lee Hull.
And I'm Lee Esses.
Last episode, we talked about the different kinds of contests out there, kind of an overview of writing contests. Today, we want to get into what it is to look for contests and how to find the ones that are right for you.
There are a lot of different contests out there, and there are a couple of watering holes for contests. So if this independent publisher is running one to find someone to publish in their fall magazine or whatever, it can be very difficult to hunt down every single small publisher in the country that you're living in. So knowing where these watering holes are will at least give you a good place to start. There are a couple of different resources that you can start on, and their categories come in magazines or literary journals, newsletters, these kind of places where they publish them. Online, especially those watering holes that we talked about a moment ago. And of course, in person.
Let's start off with magazines. I think these are probably some of the more common and more well-known, because not only are they often an opportunity to get published in a way, but the magazines tend to have a little bit of weight, a little bit of clout about them to help draw in potential writers.
So a couple that we follow and in some cases are associated with are ones like Rogue Women Writers. They have a digital newsletter that they release with stories that their collective have written. Reading these lets me know what they're looking for. Also, Fanfiction Review, another magazine that it's very easy to get involved in, get feedback on your work in a very niche market in the publishing world.
If you are looking into a magazine for a writing contest, look for ones associated with a favorite publisher or your ideal publisher. Magazines that focus on your genre, your style, and find if they are doing any contests. Authors that you follow may also be promoting or judging for those kind of contests, especially if they're associated with those publishers. So if you like their writing, you might want them to be a good judge for your work.
I believe Lorehaven is a magazine that's associated with the Realm Makers Writing Conference and Enclave Publishing. And all of those publishers associated with the conference itself help contribute to this magazine. So if you want to get involved with any of those publishers, looking into that specific writing contest that they hold or getting into those magazines can be a huge boost if you're trying to eventually traditionally publish. And of course, it is a huge help to subscribe to any newsletters that you find, especially for these magazines, because even if they don't have the entirety of the magazine in the newsletter, they will often say, these are our events in the digital newsletter, and these are the winners of the events. These are the types of people, types of writers that we're looking for. This helps you filter and make sure you're picking one that suits you.
Another benefit of having the magazine contests or just getting your stories into these short form magazines is that the magazine itself will do a lot of the marketing on your behalf because they're marketing themselves. They want to sell copies of their magazine, so they're out there distributing it. And you may have your story show up in the same edition as someone who's very popular. So it is a way to get your name out there and associated in a positive manner. Another place you can go to look for writing contests is just generally broadly online. I know that's a really, really big category, but this is probably where you'll find the more common, more frequent contests out there, even if they don't come with all of the same benefits as ones that are for a magazine where you would get published.
One of the biggest places that has not only their own ongoing contest, but they list enormous amounts of major contests throughout at least North America, is Reedsy. Reedsy has a weekly contest that they run, And a lot of those big contests out there that will have a large award on the other side if you win can be found on Readsy.
So not only does Readsy keep a list, but they run some of their own. We will be talking at the end of the month to a judge for Readsy writing contests, and we'll get a lot of answers from them about the process. So if you have any questions about writing contests in general, about the process, especially at Readsy, stay tuned for that bonus episode, which is coming out on the 30th.
Another place online that you can find a list of writing contests is actually with the company that you submit these contests through. So it's fairly common for these big names to have you submit your writing through Submittable. This is a company that will churn your story and get it to the right people. You can just enter your story once and submit it to several people. They have a lot of opportunities that way, and you're probably going to want to get engaged if you're looking to do writing contests regularly.
In general, social media is a good place to go. Places like Winning Writers have an entire account devoted to announcing contests and their winners. It's a good resource to find ways to submit to short story contests or just general writing contests. So if you are interested at all in writing contests, we encourage you to go search and look around on social media. A lot of them are posted there.
Now, online writing contests tend to be the cheapest of the options that we're talking about, simply because they're cheaper to reproduce. So these are going to be especially the Talent Scout type ones. This is a great way for publishers and for online magazines and people who are just trying to encourage certain voices to find their own writers and find their people.
The third option for where to look for writing contests are in-person events. A lot of your local art centers or libraries may have writing contests, especially for younger writers or essayists, in exchange for a scholarship of some kind.
This is often how someone in the community wants to encourage certain voices. It's easy to sit in your chair and go online and find nationwide writing contests, but right next to you in the local arts museum or the writing clubs or whatever, here's $100 to whoever wins this contest. Aspen House has done that locally with writing contests and just thrown money at something to encourage people to get their voices heard.
And local writing clubs will often have something similar to a writing contest. It may be mostly their people contributing, but they can open it up to the public. Now, this may not come with a lot of accolades, but it is a good opportunity to have your work read by other people who are familiar with writing and structure and be able to provide feedback on that.
And of course, writing conferences. This is where I ended up following a lot of these online groups and signing up for a lot of these newsletters of people, authors, groups, magazines that I like and that I support. So attending writing conferences, you get to learn a lot about the industry, you get to learn a lot about yourself as a writer, but you also get to make connections with people in the industry.
And some writing conferences will have contests there for things like the covers and the novels themselves. Not necessarily short stories because it is too fast-paced to judge for that, but they'll have a contest that's open way ahead of time, or they'll look at the selling number list to judge for that, or they'll have just a judge on the covers of stories or books. So it's something that you can go to. You can learn a lot about the industry at conferences and have an opportunity to get your story, your art, your whatever noticed.
The in-person contests that you find, especially your local ones, are going to be the small pool of entrants that tend to have a larger payout on the other side. So your reach, as far as marketing yourself as a storyteller, won't go quite as far because it's not worldwide. But especially if you are just getting started, if you are engaged in your local writing community, and if you're looking to get a fairly large amount of money or a scholarship, local tends to be a great place to get your feet wet in the writing contest world.
After you have picked the contests you want to submit to, and before you submit to them, there are a few things that you can do. One, look at the former winners and see if you consider that material winning material. Because the unfortunate part is that contests and the judging of them are subjective. Your style may not be theirs. If you are submitting your fantasy story to a literary fiction contest, it's not going to be viewed very well because it doesn't fit the style that they're looking for in the winners. So be very aware of what the former winners have written and how their stories went, and if that is going to be a good fit for you or not.
The other thing that we advise you to do after you pick one and before you start committing yourself to it is to take a look at the judges. The judges are often doing this because they have a love for the craft, which means it's unlikely that this is the only contest they've ever judged. Therefore, you can find out what other places they've judged, what has won in other locations. You can find a lot on Google as far as what those judges are looking for. And again, don't change yourself to match the judges, but rather make sure the judges are in line with your style.
And don't reach out to them. That only blurs the lines of professionalism, and it will not help your chances.
Like we've mentioned several times throughout this episode, and we will mention several times throughout this month, it's important that you find something that suits you instead of trying to cram your style into someone else's expectations. Take your time finding the right contests, because only then you can
write selfishly.
If you have a question or comment for our hosts or a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com or find us on Facebook by searching for Aspen House Publishing.